everyone, I'm JC and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are at a bit of a different viewpoint because I'm going to be showing you how to paint a bottle and some tips. I'm kind of an amateur, but all you're going to need for this is some acrylic paints. I like using Liquitex Basics. You're also going to need a glass bottle. This one was bought from just like a craft store. You'll need some sponge brushes. I like this variety pack. And then you're also going to need some paint brushes. And technically you don't need these, but for littler details they might be helpful. So as you guys saw in the thumbnail, this is a skyline inspired bottle. So we're going to be having an ocean, a bit of a sunset or sunrise, and then a skyline. So the first step in any kind of bottle painting is to get a good base coat on there. So of course going in with a sponge brush and just dabbing all over this bottle to make sure I get all the areas, but not too thick of a coat, because we're going to end up doing a second coat anyway, and you don't want things to be, sorry, kind of distracted by my dog who has a trachea problem, but you don't want the coats to be too thick or too thin. So just kind of going all over the bottle. This kind of is, it's good for me because I like tedious things, but for people who don't, you might have a hard time doing this step. So this is our first coat dry, and we're going to start the second coat, but before we do, just make sure that this is completely dry, otherwise your paint might start peeling up. I think I waited 2 hours for this to dry. I'm also showing that I did not paint the bottom, and I actually ended up never doing it. Just make sure if you put a seal at the end to get the bottom as well so nothing chips. So yeah, we're going to do the second coat, but again, make sure the first coat is dry. Our first and second base coats are done. We're going to move on to the fun part, the colors. I'm using ultramarine blue and a blue that I can't pronounce, but it's slightly darker. And basically what I did here was take the ultramarine blue, it's a little lighter than the other one, and I kind of made like a line across where I want like the ocean to be, and then just filled in that entire area with like a pretty thick coat of blue. Then I took the darker blue and used a brush to kind of like make like a little bit like of a shifting color with it. You can use a sponge brush if you don't have paint brushes. It's just gonna give you more of like a textured look than like a smooth and I don't know, like a different look, but you could use sponge brushes. But since I have paint brushes, I just prefer to use those. so this is me making that line that I just talked about a few seconds ago. I like this because it gives me a little bit of a reference. So I just go around the whole entire bottle, and when I do, look at that beautiful line. And when I do, then I just kind of fill it in, and yeah, and I'll show you guys what I do with my darker blue color in a minute. Okay, we have our blue coats done. We're going to take our dark blue. Now you want to make sure the ultramarine or whatever color you used first is still wet. Otherwise, you're not really going to get a blend. You're just going to see this on top of that color. So my paint is completely wet here, and I'm literally just kind of, I didn't really have a technique to this. I just kind of went over like certain spots, made it kind of look splotchy on purpose. And once it dried, it looked really, really good. I didn't add anything else to it. So yeah, I just kept adding dark blue until I felt it looked good. So just kind of do what you think looks good here. Alright, now that we have the blue done, we're going to do our sunset. I used cadmium yellow deep hue, cadmium orange hue, and then the last one I think is like pronounced naphthol crimson maybe. It's this red color right here. These worked out really, really well. So yeah, the only thing I would do different, I feel like the crimson was still a little too orange, and that kind of like was a little harder to blend, but it did end up okay at the end. So basically I used a sponge brush for this, and I think that was probably the easiest solution. And you just kind of like you start with the yellow, and you kind of just go all around, and then you just gradually start adding in the orange and red as you go higher, which I'll show in a little bit. So as I set this yellow down, I'm purposely leaving like, I don't know, like a couple of millimeters at the bottom here, only because we're going to be putting like city skylines there anyway, and I did not want it to get on the blue at all, so I just thought it'd be smarter to leave a little bit of white area. This is that yellow completed, and we're about to add the orange. I believe I used the same sponge brush for this part. I did, yeah, I can see the yellow at the tip here. So yeah, I'm just going to bring in the orange, and all you do is you add a little bit on top of the yellow, and then you just kind of start somewhat blending it, but then at the end you can go back with like a dry brush and blend it even more. Okay, here's our finished yellow to orange blend. I think it looks pretty good here. And another tip that I think is very helpful is to take more yellow and work your way up. That's what blends are really, really hard for me, so that's what I've like done, and it's been a little more helpful. So here's me taking the red now, the crimson color, and going around. And then this one was like a lot trickier to blend, but I did eventually get it to like a way that I liked it. But yeah, I'll show that in a minute as well. Yay, we have the red done. So this was a bit of a struggle for me. Like I said earlier, I don't know why I could not get that to blend very nicely. It was back and forth and back and forth. Well, I thought that was hard, and then I added the blue color. I just used that same ultramarine blue from earlier. So I added that, and it was going kind of smoothly, but then as I tried to blend the red, it wasn't looking great. But again, I got it to how I wanted it to look. It just took a little bit of effort, but goes to show you, someone who's been doing this for a while still is a bit of a struggle. So yeah, I'll show you how that looks in a second. This is me just showing the bottle and how I just did that part, because I was kind of nervous to blend blue to red, especially since the red had a bit of orange in it, which can tend to brown. So yeah, I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Okay, now we have the finished gradient. I am in love with how this turned out, but now we're gonna get to my favorite part of the entire bottle, the skyline. This bottle was actually inspired by like my obsession for New York City. I've never been there, but I so badly hope to go there someday. But yeah, I'm showing that I did not paint this bottle part yet, and I do end up doing it at the end. But I don't even know exactly when I painted that, but it may have been after like the entire thing. But yeah, now we're gonna start with the skyline. I just took this black. It was just, I think it's called Mars Black. Yeah, Mars Black. And I used a very tiny paintbrush, which is why I said that would come in handy later. And I just kind of show you how it just, you gotta be very delicate, and even though it's a bit of like a grainy texture, you just gotta kind of be patient and just be very slow. This is also my favorite part of like bottle painting in general, where you can just like, you have like the base done, you have like the colors done, this is like where you add like all the little details, because I feel like this is where you can be like the most creative. So yeah, this is my two little buildings I was very proud of. And this whole process I think took me about 45 minutes, but yeah. I also left out a spot where like I kind of thought it looked like the sun was coming through, so I thought, look, that, there it is right there. Like the little sun break, I don't know why, I just kind of kept that, but that's the finished thing. So those are all my buildings. I added some nice roofs on top of some. You can get pretty creative. But yeah, I kind of kept it at that because I feel like when I go to the extreme, sometimes it looks bad, so that's what it looks like. Okay, this next part was my second favorite part of the bottle painting. I took that same cadmium yellow and then I added some white to it to get like a really pale yellow color. And you're just gonna add windows to all of your, this is the white I used because I used so much of it, so I bought a big tub of it. And basically I took a toothpick, or you can use the back of a paintbrush, and you just dabbed little windows. I was very precise about this. Now this took me probably another good 45 minutes. And I like to go in rows, sometimes little lines, circles. I got kind of into it. And then sometimes I left like windows like not lit, sometimes they were. It looks really cool if they're not all the same. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing it. And I'll kind of show a little bit of that process. This is the finished skyline. I think I lied. I think the lights were actually my favorite part to do. I love how some of them are lines, and that was my favorite thing, and it kind of just added a pop to the whole thing. That was like the area that had the little, that I felt like the sun was coming through. Now I'm going to add a bit of a moon. I'm going to show how to add a little crescent moon, and then I actually ended up doing a full moon. To do a crescent, you just kind of make a very like narrow C, with the points being a little thinner than the actual like body part. So that's the sea. But again, I ended up doing a full moon just because I prefer full moons, but sometimes crescents can be hard for people. So that's why I added my little tips. Even mine's not that great. But yeah, that's the full moon. And then I added some black to it to add a little bit of like the moon craters. So I enjoy doing that, but you could just leave it white if you wanted to. Okay, this is the actual end of the bottle painting. I think this one turned out so good. This one's probably my favorite, followed by my constellation one that I did. But yeah, I just enjoyed this so much. The last thing you have to do to this bottle is seal it. This is our Rust-Oleum. I don't exactly know what this one is. I don't have the bottle on me, but any coat works. I'm just showing that I used one. But yeah, just make sure you spray this in a well-ventilated area or outside like we did. I like the glossy one because it makes it look nicer. Again, showing I did not paint the bottom. But yeah, I had so much fun painting this bottle, and I hope you guys give it a try. Please like this video and subscribe. Bye!